hours into the next couple of days, but it's going to stay mild. It's not too bad.
Sounds good to me. Thanks, Brad, and thank you for joining us this morning.
We'll be back with more Iowa news and weather at 7:25. Join us then.
This is 5 TV.
Hi, I'm Mike Martin, baseball coach at Florida State in Tallahassee, Florida.
Good morning, America.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Again from Fisher Island, Florida, just off the coast of Miami. You're looking at a shot of the island there. The other day we talked about a 7-acre island. It's actually a 7-acre estate. The whole island's about 285 acres, and it is some compound. Look at that this morning. Just another balmy
normal
day in
that's right.
paradise.
If you're coming down here anytime soon, don't bring your snowmobile. It will be absolutely excess baggage. Good morning, everyone. I'm Charlie Gibson, and it is, what day is it? It's Wednesday, the 25th of February.
And we've got a lot in store for you this morning from the Sunshine State. We're going to take you down a fascinating trip down Florida's intercoastal waterways, and also we'll give you a rather intriguing look at all the bathing suits of this summer. There's some rather interesting designs. And also we're going to be talking with two great names in golf, Jack Nicklaus and his son Jackie. They are playing each other together professionally for the first time in the Doral Ryder Open, which is taking place here in Florida. And also yet to come, Don Johnson and is it Philip Michael Thomas come up from Miami Vice. Rob Lowe and also Burt Reynolds are coming later in the week.
The man with 3 first names.
That's right.
That's the problem. Also this morning we're going to be talking about Cuban immigration. A lot of people have in their minds the image of a mass number of Cubans in holding pens under a highway in Miami, but it's really been an extraordinary story of success. A young man who came here at the age of 11, not speaking English, is now the mayor of Miami. A Cuban who came here at the age of 19, not speaking any English, is now on the Federal Reserve Board. So it's been an amazing story of transformation, and we're going to talk about Cuba in Miami. All that will be coming up in a few minutes, but first, it is now, It is now 2 minutes after the hour, and Jed Duvall has the news down in Washington. Good morning, Jed.
Good morning, Charlie, Joan. Good morning, everyone. White House Chief of Staff Donald Regan has said he will not step down unless President Reagan asks him to. Now, there is a report the president has done just that. The Washington Times says the two have agreed on a scenario to allow Reagan to leave gracefully within 10 days. Meantime, the New York Times reports the Tower Commission has concluded that President Reagan was regularly briefed on Iran arms deals, but that his participation in those talks was minimal. Yesterday, the president conceded he cannot remember whether he gave approval to Iran arms sales, but he also defended himself this way.
Education and health. I'd like to ask one question of everybody. Everybody that can remember what they were doing on August 8th of 1985, raise your hand. I think it's possible to forget. Nobody's raised any hands.
The former secretary to fired White House aide Oliver North has become Washington's latest Iran-Contra celebrity. Fawn Hall appeared before the cameras yesterday, said very little. In private, she reportedly has told investigators she helped North alter and destroy documents in order to protect his superiors. For his part, North has filed a lawsuit challenging the law that permits the appointment of a special prosecutor in cases such as the Iran-Contra affair. As John McWethy reports, new evidence has come to light now about Saudi Arabian efforts to help the Nicaraguan Contras.
Businessman Sam Bamia claims the Saudis once asked him to set up a front corporation to pump tens of millions of dollars to the anti-communist rebels trying to overthrow the government of Nicaragua. Bamia said the Saudi ambassador to Washington, Prince Bandar, was a key figure, as were former Air Force General Richard Secord and his business partner, Albert Hakim.
Prince Bandar asked me to set up a business entity with Secord and Hakim. And he said to do trading business, international trading business from it.
The business entity, according to Bamia, was to launder Saudi money heading for anti-communist rebels in Central America, Afghanistan, and Angola.
My understanding later on is that these funds were put in special Swiss accounts to be at the disposal of the U.S. government, anywhere from $100 to $120 million that have been transferred to the Contras from Saudi money.
Bamia, who is involved in a lawsuit against a Saudi official close to King Fahd, says he is going public now because he fears for his life.
They say if you talk, you won't talk very long. Now, if I tell you I'm not concerned for my life, I'll be lying to you.
A spokesman for the Saudi embassy in Washington categorically denies Bamia's allegations, saying no Saudi money has ever gone to the Contra rebels. Nonetheless, investigators on Capitol Hill now want to talk to Sam Bamia. John McWethy, ABC News, the State Department.
In other news, the political brawl is over in Chicago. Mayor Harold Washington won the bare-fisted Democratic mayoral primary, winning nearly unanimous black support. Washington defeated former Mayor Jane Byrne, who won most but not enough of the white vote. And Wall Street is looking to Capitol Hill for help in cleaning up the insider trading problem. Stephen Ogg has details in this morning's economic report.
Good morning. Some of Wall Street's top executives say the current insider trading scandal threatens to destroy public confidence in the stock market. They told members of the Senate Banking Subcommittee yesterday they need government help to solve the problem.
I reluctantly conclude that Wall Street cannot solve this problem alone. The stakes are too high, the impact is too broad. It will require the joint efforts of Wall Street and Washington.
Generally, the brokers said the law must be changed to force business firms and traders to make information public a lot sooner than they do now, especially when mergers and takeovers are involved. They want the Securities and Exchange Commission to get more money in people. And speaking of Wall Street, markets opened against a small rally yesterday that sent the Dow up nearly 7 points. Meanwhile, another big bank merger, Security Pacific acquiring Rainier Bank Corporation through an exchange of stock worth more than $1 billion. The surviving bank would have assets worth more than $72 billion. Finally, last summer, a few days after U.S. Steel became the USX Corporation, a small firm in Sunnyvale, California, filed suit. The firm's name is USX Telecenters. Well, yesterday they settled the suit. USX Telecenters, which owned the name first, is going to change its name. No, they didn't say how much money they're getting, but hopefully the bigger USX is getting clear title at a price that's more than just a steal. The economy this morning.
Checking the foreign currency markets, the dollar is unchanged against the Japanese yen. In Europe, the dollar is down against the West German mark, the French franc, and the British pound. In London, the morning gold fixing up $4.30 an ounce from yesterday's close in New York. Looking ahead now at the news calendar for today, Israel's Foreign Minister Peres begins 2 days of meetings with Egypt's President Mubarak in Cairo in hopes of reviving the Middle East peace process. Some of the wives of the Challenger astronauts met with Disneyland officials in Los Angeles today to discuss the creation of science and education centers in Houston and here in Washington. Federal health officials continue a 2-day meeting in Atlanta on proposals for wider testing for AIDS. It's the largest national AIDS meeting ever, has attracted some 800 participants. This evening on World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, donating blood for your own use to keep from getting AIDS in a blood transfusion. Finally, a song that raised $750,000 for the fight against AIDS won a Grammy last night. The AIDS charity song, That's What Friends Are For, took 2 trophies. One for Best Group Pop Vocal went to singers Dionne Warwick, Stevie Wonder, Gladys Knight, and Elton John. The second award as Song of the Year went to writers Burt Bacharach and Carol Bayer Sager.
If this song, every time it's heard forevermore, can just touch your hearts a little bit and make us care a little more so that we can find a cure for AIDS, I will be very, very happy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The Grammy Record of the Year, Higher Love by Steve Winwood, who also won Best Male Pop Vocal. Best Female Pop Vocalist, Barbra Streisand for her Broadway album, and Paul Simon's controversial album, Graceland, was named Album of the Year. Simon had been accused of violating a cultural boycott by recording the album in South Africa with South African singers.
To express my deep admiration and love for the singers and musicians from South Africa who work with me on Graceland. They are able to produce music of great power and nuance and joy, and I find that just extraordinary, and they have my great respect and love. Thank you.
United Nations had briefly blacklisted Simon. The singer praised the South African musicians who worked with him for producing music of great power under one of the most repressive regimes on the planet. That's our news at 7. At 7:30, Filipinos celebrate a year to the day after the departure of Ferdinand Marcos. Joan?
All right, thank you, Jed. Right now it is 9 minutes after 7. And Spencer Christian's got no excuses this morning. He is at the National Weather Service in Coral Gables, Florida. Spencer, good morning.
Good morning, Joan. Good morning, everyone. You're right, no excuses. Right behind me here, over my left shoulder, is the National Hurricane Center here in Coral Gables, just south of Miami. And, of course, this has served as the National Warning Center for tropical storms and hurricanes since the 1950s. As we look to my right just a little bit, all the way in the back, we've got the Satellite Operations Center, which I'm going to show you a little bit later. Here on my far right, closer to you, we have the forecasting area for the state of Florida. We're going to take a closer look at all these operations, see how they work just a little bit later on. Right now, let's take a look at the jet stream map. Boy, this jet stream has gone crazy. It doesn't know what it wants to do. Dipping way down in the southwest, slicing out over the Pacific Ocean, back through Mexico, winter weather, pounding the Rocky Mountain area today. The outlook shows it's going to be snowy and messy, heavy snow hitting the central and southern Rockies. Chance of flooding in the southwest with heavy rain in southern Arizona. Also some snow in the northern Rockies pushing into the northern plains now. The only bright and sunny area will be the northeast, the Great Lakes, and New England. That's a quick look at the national weather picture, and here's what's happening in your hometown area.
Good morning, everyone. This is Brad Edwards from the 5 TV Forecast Center, and here's what we can expect for today. Mostly cloudy skies with occasional rain showers possible. It'll be mild with a high of 48 degrees, southeast winds 15 to 25 miles per hour.
And we'll have more on today's national weather coming up in the next half hour. Charlie?
Thank you, Spencer. It's now almost 11 minutes after the hour. Some say that Miami is a town that marches to a Latin beat, and for a lot of reasons, but many say primarily it is because of the massive influx of Cuban immigrants into this area. Many of the Cuban Americans have prospered in the American economy, and they have done it without losing their Cuban heritage. For the next few seconds, you're going to be looking at pictures of Havana, Cuba, and Little Havana, Miami, Florida. Try figuring which is which. There are striking similarities. Little Havana has the look and feel of its parent city. But oh, such differences. Havana, Cuba is almost 500 years old. Little Havana is just 28 years old. Havana, Cuba, desperately poor. While Little Havana, in such a short time, represents an extraordinary economic success story. When their Cuba went communist, a wave of 900,000 residents fled to the United States. A second wave of 125,000 came out in 1980 in the Mariel boat lift. Some 750,000 of those Cubans settled just in Miami. 40% of the city is Cuban American. They have brought their culture, they have kept their culture, and Americans have responded to their culture.
Come on, shake your body, baby, do that conga. No, you can't control yourself any longer. Feel the rhythm of the music getting stronger. Don't you fight it till you try to do that conga beat.
But inevitably, there has been discrimination.
They would call us names like banana and spick and things like that. And I didn't like that at all. That it made growing up very hard. And at a point, I wouldn't even let them know that I was Cuban if I could help it.
But despite the obstacles, Cuban Americans have prospered. Incredibly, the average Cuban American household earned $27,500 in 1985. That was higher than the national average. It is questionable whether any such large immigrant group has achieved so much so fast. And done it without losing their heritage. In much of Little Havana, there might as well be a sign, Spanish spoken here. A game of dominoes can bring as heated a discussion as the latest Cuban politics. They brought their heritage, they brought their commerce. Ernesto Perez Carrillo's father ran a cigar factory in Cuba. It was seized after the revolution. So he moved it here, rehired some of those who worked for him in Cuba, and has prospered, making El Credito cigars. They're good cigars. 40 cents to $7.50 a piece in the stores. Those who fled here were mostly the cream of Cuban society. Lawyers, doctors, accountants, successful businessmen. Today, 30 U.S. banks are owned or operated by Cubans in the Miami area. And there are almost 20,000 Cuban-owned businesses here. Jose Pepe Salmat opened his appliance business, Kaufman & Roberts, in 1975. He picked the name Kaufman & Roberts from the phone book. He thought it sounded American.
Suddenly you find yourself working really in places that you never thought you would ever work, with a language that you could not understand either. it's really shocking, and maybe that's one of the reasons I'm where I am today.
Where he is today is the first Hispanic appointed to the Federal Reserve Board. Talk to officials in Cuba about the exiles in the United States, and you hear nothing but scorn.
Moralmente abandonaron su patria.
They abandoned their country when their homeland needed them most, with the hope the United States was going to topple the revolution and they would be able to come right back, right behind the Marines.
Talk to Cubans in Miami about those officials, and you hear nothing but hate. You hear it in the coffee shops when you ask if the hate will ever die.
No, I don't think so. Not what Castro's here. He keeps track of keeping that hate alive very well. That guy is something else.
And you hear it from the politicians when you ask if Castro might be overthrown.
And I think typically with the proper support, you can liberate a country like Cuba. And I'm never going to admit that communism is something that is inevitable and cannot be derailed or ended.
But while there's talk of liberating Cuba, few realistically think it's going to happen. It's a dream. But dreams have value.
You just can't help it. That's all we have. Hope.
Is it realistic hope or is it wishful thinking?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's wishful thinking in a way.
The process of change for Cuban Americans will obviously take longer than 28 years. The culture evident in Miami is still more Cuban than American. This, for instance, is a botanica. Potions, lotions, elixirs, incense, herbal cures of many descriptions. Would Americans believe in this stuff? Would they shop here? They don't. Cuban Americans, however, do.
It is something everyone believes, and when everyone believes something, it is alive.
That statement rings true not just in a botanica. It might refer to all Cuban Americans. They believe in themselves, and their community is certainly alive. In a moment, we'll be talking with a top immigration official about the impact of the immigration on this area. That after this.
The way it used to be. Remember, you were always there for me. I hear the laughter, I hear you still. You're always with me, I always will. Remember.
Remember, Rock of Ages. Spring's in the air. Don't be caught unprepared. Hurry to Fashion Gal Spring Sale for great savings on fully lined suits from Peabody House and others, $29.99 through Saturday only. Or jeans from Lee and other famous makers, just $10.99 through Saturday. Forenza skirts and Outback Red 10-button sweaters are $19.99 each. And shorts from Forenza Surf are yours for $6.99. At these prices, you'll be ready for anything. Fashion Gal Spring Sale is going on now. Come on in.
Who can give me the most for my trade-in?
Who wants to really deal on a new car, huh? Who can?
Oh, the Crescent Man can at Crescent Chevrolet. No one gives you more. We've got what you're looking for. More for your money, more for you to drive. The Crescent Man makes it all come alive. The Crescent Man can at Crescent Chevrolet.
17th and Ingersoll.
Hy-Vee, shop Hy-Vee.
For time-saving meals or snacks, enjoy Totino's Frozen Pizza, now just 89 cents at Hy-Vee. For other savings, stock up on Hy-Vee Saltine Crackers, 48 cents. Gala Paper Towels, 48 cents. And Cook's Whole Smoked Picnics, 77 cents a pound. It's always time to save when you shop Hy-Vee.
Where there's a helpful smile in every aisle.
The immigration into South Florida has come really in tidal wave proportions. Not only Cubans, but Haitians, Nicaraguans, the list goes on. And it strains a community. It changes a community. The man who oversees the immigration into this area, the man from the Immigration and Naturalization Service in charge of this area, the district director, is Perry Rivkind, and he joins us this morning. Nice to have you with us, Mr. Rivkind.
Glad to be with you.
You grew up here in South Florida. What does immigration in this kind of proportion do to an area? How has it changed?
Well, I think in the case of South Florida, it's been a tremendous improvement. Very few people know, but back in the very early 60s, this area was bankrupt. And it was the Cubans who came that restored it, not only economically, but culturally. Cubans are great contributors.
New life in the area, in effect.
Exactly.
The immigration, was it all legal, mostly legal? What's the breakdown?
Well, at the time of the Cuban migration in 1960, of course, it was all legal. And this country certainly welcomed them and supported them coming, as every administration and every Congress since 1960.
But we hear about the problems of illegal immigrants so much in Texas and coming up through Mexico. Are there a large number of illegal immigrants here? For instance, there were, over 1 million Cubans, right, who came into this country. Are they all legal in this country, or is there a large proportion of illegals here?
Well, I would say for the most part they're legal, most all Cubans. You do have illegal immigration here, but in no way is it to the magnitude of what crosses the Mexican, Texas, California borders.
So despite the massive influx into this area, basically it can be controlled?
Oh, I think so, yes, and it has been because the community has prospered.
How have the Cuban immigrants been accepted?
I think at this point quite well. The public, both Anglos and everyone, have elected them to public office, and I think that is symbolic of the acceptance.
Well, I think back to the Miami riots of the early 80s, 1980 was it? Was that not somewhat immigration related?
No, I think that's debatable. Some people will say it is. I don't really think it was.
Have the Cubans been accepted in this area more readily than the other groups of immigrants from other countries?
I would say yes, because the Cubans were here in the late 30s and early 40s. A lot of people don't know that. The culture here in the early 40s was Cuban. All the music was Cuban music. Hotel managers and other entrepreneurs were Cuban. In fact, the Guayavera, that historic Cuban shirt, was worn here by nearly everyone, including me.
Is there another example in immigration history of so much transformation so fast? I mean, I guess in thinking about it, you'd have to go back to what, the middle 19th century and the extraordinary influx of Irish into the Northeast during the times of the potato famine. But even in that case, not the kind of numbers that we've had here, and not the kind of rather quick acceptance that you seem to have here.
Well, I think it's because the Cubans are an exceptional people. It's hard to imagine people from a small island south of the United States, somewhat isolated in the past, that are so progressive. They go into medicine, they go into law, science, and I think it's recognized that they've been a tremendous positive influence. They also brought to this country tremendous patriotism for this country, something that some of us have lost a little.
Little Havana is so particular, we've got just a few seconds left. Little Havana is so particularly Cuban. Is that going to disperse, do you think, as the second generation comes and third generation?
Absolutely. Yeah. Same as every other ethnic group in this country.
The assimilation trend begins, right. Thank you, Perry Rivkind, for being with us. Very interesting. It is now 23 minutes after the hour, and we'll be back.
The optical department of Brandeis announces a very special sale. For a limited time only, you can get 2 pairs of glasses for the price of 1. That's right, designer frames, sport frames, safety frames, single lens, bifocals, trifocals, sunglasses, photo ray lenses, half-frame reading glasses, hardened lenses, tinted lenses, all 2 for 1. And all guaranteed to be exactly ground and fitted to your doctor's specifications at the optical department of Brandeis in the Valley West Mall, Naturalization.
When lighting makes a difference, you owe it to yourself to